Have you ever picked up your phone for 30 seconds and somehow lost 45 minutes? You were only going to check one message, one notification, one email, one video. Then suddenly, you're scrolling, tapping, refreshing, searching, consuming, and afterward, you don't feel satisfied. You feel drained, restless, distracted, almost as if your brain consumed something but wasn't nourished. If this sounds familiar, you're experiencing one of the most powerful forces shaping modern human behavior: dopamine, the neurotransmitter that has become both famous and misunderstood. Pause. Over the last few years, millions of people have been told they need a dopamine detox. No social media, no music, no coffee, no television, no pleasure, no stimulation. The idea sounds appealing. Modern life feels overwhelming. So perhaps the solution is eliminating dopamine. But there is a problem. The entire premise misunderstands how dopamine actually works. You cannot detox from dopamine. If you successfully remove dopamine from your brain, you wouldn't become enlightened, you wouldn't become productive, you wouldn't become focused, you wouldn't get out of bed, because dopamine is not the enemy. Dopamine is essential for life itself. The real issue is not dopamine. The real issue is dopamine timing. And today, we're going to explore one of the most fascinating stories in neuroscience, because once you understand dopamine correctly, you begin to understand motivation, addiction, focus, cravings, procrastination, phone addiction, and perhaps even happiness itself. Let's start with a myth. Most people believe dopamine is the pleasure chemical. That sounds reasonable. It appears in countless books, countless podcasts, countless social media posts. But modern neuroscience tells a more interesting story. Dopamine is not primarily about pleasure. Dopamine is about pursuit, anticipation, motivation, prediction, movement toward a goal. Think about the last time you ordered something online. The excitement often happens before the package arrives. You imagine opening it, using it, enjoying it. Sometimes the anticipation feels better than the actual product. That's dopamine, the pursuit, not necessarily the reward. Researchers studying dopamine pathways discovered something remarkable. Dopamine frequently spikes before a reward arrives, not after. Your brain is essentially saying, this might be important. Pay attention. Move toward it. Do it again. Dopamine is less about pleasure and more about possibility. This made perfect sense for our ancestors. Imagine living 20,000 years ago. Finding food required effort. Finding shelter required effort. Finding a mate required effort. Exploring unknown territory required effort. The human brain evolved to reward pursuit because pursuit increased survival. Without dopamine, humans would lack motivation. We wouldn't hunt, we wouldn't explore, we wouldn't innovate, we wouldn't create. Dopamine became one of evolution's most powerful motivational tools. The problem is that modern technology has learned how to exploit it. Imagine giving a prehistoric human unlimited berries, unlimited sugar, unlimited novelty, unlimited entertainment, unlimited social validation, 24 hours a day. The brain never evolved for this environment, yet that is exactly where many people live today. Notifications, likes, videos, messages, breaking news, short-form content, infinite scrolling, each one acting like a tiny dopamine trigger. Not enough individually to matter, but collectively, they create something unprecedented in human history, a constant stream of novelty, and novelty is one of dopamine's favorite stimuli. Now here's where things become fascinating. Your brain doesn't merely respond to rewards, it responds to unpredictable rewards. This is called variable reward reinforcement, and it is one of the most powerful behavioral mechanisms ever discovered. Think about slot machines. You don't know when you'll win. That's what keeps people pulling the lever. Social media operates similarly. Most posts aren't extraordinary. Most notifications aren't life-changing. Most videos aren't remarkable, but occasionally, something interesting appears, something exciting, something surprising, and your brain learns. Maybe the next swipe will be better. Maybe the next click will be more rewarding. Maybe the next notification will matter. This creates a powerful loop, one that keeps attention trapped. Not because people are weak, but because human neurobiology is being expertly manipulated. Now let's talk about the concept of dopamine detox. The idea became popular because many people noticed they were becoming distracted, less focused, less motivated, more dependent on constant stimulation. Those observations were correct. The explanation was not. The brain does not need a dopamine detox. The brain needs a dopamine recalibration. More specifically, it needs better dopamine timing, because the brain is constantly comparing rewards. And this comparison changes behavior. Imagine eating chocolate cake for breakfast, ice cream for lunch, candy for dinner. Eventually, fruit becomes less exciting. Not because fruit changed, because the comparison changed. The same thing happens with dopamine when the brain becomes accustomed to constant stimulation. Ordinary activities begin feeling less rewarding. Reading feels boring, exercise feels boring, work feels boring, learning feels boring, conversation feels boring. The activities didn't change, the comparison changed. This is why many people struggle with motivation today. The issue is not laziness. The issue is often reward imbalance. The brain has become conditioned to expect extraordinary stimulation every hour, every minute, every few seconds. Then real life arrives, and real life operates differently. Real life rewards effort slowly. Learning takes time, fitness takes time, relationships take time, business takes time, recovery takes time, growth takes time. Dopamine systems evolve to support those pursuits, but modern technology frequently hijacks them. Now here's the important insight. The goal is not removing pleasure. The goal is restoring sensitivity, and those are very different things. Imagine walking into a dark room. At first you see nothing, then gradually your eyes adapt, sensitivity returns. The same principle applies to dopamine. When stimulation decreases temporarily, sensitivity often increases. Suddenly, ordinary experiences become rewarding again. Walking outdoors feels better. Conversation feels richer. Music feels more meaningful. Reading becomes easier. Focus improves. Not because dopamine disappeared, because dopamine sensitivity improved. Pause. This brings us to dopamine timing, the real hack. The thing most people overlook. Successful individuals often unconsciously organize dopamine differently. They learn to place rewards after effort, not before effort. Modern life does the opposite. Many people begin the day with stimulation. Social media, messages, videos, news, entertainment. The brain receives massive dopamine input before accomplishing anything meaningful. Then work feels difficult because work must compete with the stimulation that came first. The brain is already comparing, already calculating, already expecting higher rewards. Imagine reversing the sequence. You wake up. Movement first. Sunlight first. Deep work first. Exercise first. Creation first. Then rewards later. Suddenly, dopamine begins reinforcing productive behaviors. The same neurotransmitter, different timing, entirely different outcome. This is why dopamine timing matters more than dopamine deprivation. The goal is not suffering. The goal is strategic reward placement. Now let's discuss one of the biggest misconceptions about motivation. Most people believe motivation comes first, then action follows. Neuroscience often shows the opposite. Action frequently creates motivation. Not the other way around. You don't always feel motivated to exercise. You start moving. Then motivation appears. You don't always feel motivated to work. You begin. Then momentum develops. Dopamine frequently increases during progress, not before it. This realization changes everything. Stop waiting to feel motivated. Begin moving. Let dopamine catch up. Another fascinating aspect of dopamine involves uncertainty. The brain loves progress, but it also loves novelty. This explains why goals matter. When people lose goals, dopamine systems often decline. Life becomes repetitive, predictable, flat. Purpose creates pursuit. Pursuit creates engagement. Engagement activates dopamine. The healthiest dopamine systems are often found not in people constantly consuming stimulation, but in people pursuing meaningful challenges. Think about the happiest people you've met. Many aren't relaxing all day. Many aren't endlessly consuming entertainment. Many are building something, creating something, learning something, contributing something, growing towards something, because dopamine evolved around pursuit, not passive consumption. The brain wants a mission. The brain wants direction. The brain wants progress. This is one reason wearable technology fascinates me. Modern devices allow us to observe behavior patterns objectively. Sleep, recovery, stress, activity, consistency. And increasingly, we are discovering that human performance depends less on intensity and more on rhythm. The same is true for dopamine. The healthiest brains are not necessarily the most stimulated. They are often the most balanced, the most intentional, the most aligned. As we move into the future, understanding dopamine may become one of the most important skills of modern life, not because dopamine is dangerous, but because attention has become valuable. Every company wants your attention. Every platform wants your attention. Every notification wants your attention. Your attention has become the world's most valuable resource, and dopamine sits at the center of that battle. So if you remember only one thing from today's episode, remember this: dopamine is not your enemy. Pleasure is not your enemy. Technology is not your enemy. The real question is timing. Are rewards supporting your goals or distracting you from them? Are you using dopamine, or is dopamine being used against you? Because the difference between addiction and achievement often lies in the same neurochemical system. The same molecule, the same brain, the same biology, but a completely different pattern, a completely different rhythm, and perhaps a completely different future. I'm Dr. Nitin Yende. Thank you for joining me for another episode of OXYZEN Health Intelligence. Remember, your brain is not broken. It is adapting to the environment you provide it. Change the environment, and the brain often changes with it. I'll see you in the next episode. Recommended YouTube title: Dopamine Detox is Wrong. Why dopamine timing is the real productivity hack. Thumbnail text. Your brain isn't addicted, it's mistimed. Or the dopamine lie everyone believes. Have you ever picked up your phone for 30 seconds just to check one message and suddenly found 45 minutes gone? You meant to look at one notification, one email, one quick video, but instead you scrolled. You tapped, you refreshed, you jumped from one piece of content to the next. You consumed a stream of tiny pleasures, and afterward you felt oddly empty, drained, restless, distracted. It's as if your brain had been fed something fast and flashy, but not anything nourishing. If that sounds familiar, you're witnessing one of the most powerful forces shaping modern behavior: dopamine. That word has become both celebrated and misunderstood. Over the past few years, millions of people have been told they need a dopamine detox, a radical fast from social media, music, coffee, television, and even all forms of pleasure. The promise is simple: remove stimulation, reset your brain, regain focus. The problem is, the premise misunderstands how dopamine actually works. You cannot detox from dopamine. If you somehow remove dopamine from your brain entirely, you wouldn't become enlightened, productive, or focused. You'd be immobilized. Dopamine is not the enemy. It's essential to life. The true issue is timing. When dopamine arrives relative to our actions and rewards, get the timing right, and dopamine becomes an ally for motivation, creativity, and sustained attention. Get it wrong, and it fuels distraction and compulsive behavior. Let's begin with a common myth. Dopamine is the pleasure chemical. That's a tidy soundbite, and it appears in countless books, podcasts, and social posts. But modern neuroscience gives us a subtler, more useful story. Dopamine is about pursuit, anticipation, prediction, and movement toward goals. It's the brain's chemical for pay attention. Something important might be happening. Think about ordering something online. The thrill often comes not when the package arrives, but in the days leading up to it. Imagining opening it, using it, enjoying it. That anticipatory buzz, the urge to check the tracking number, to imagine the use case, is dopamine at work. The spike happens before the reward, not after. Your brain signals, this could matter, move toward it. Do it again. This mechanism made perfect sense for our ancestors. In a world where resources were scarce and dangers unpredictable, pursuing food, shelter, and mates required effort and exploration. A brain wired to reward pursuit increased survival. Without dopamine-driven motivation, we wouldn't hunt, build, explore, or create. Dopamine is evolution's engine for goal-directed behavior. Modern technology, however, has learned how to hijack that engine. Imagine giving a hunter-gatherer unlimited berries, endless sugar, constant novelty, and uninterrupted social validation. That environment would be foreign and perilous to a brain shaped for scarcity and delayed rewards. Yet that's the environment many of us live in now, a relentless stream of notifications, likes, short videos, and headlines. Each tiny notification is a dopamine trigger. Individually, they're small, but together they create a continuous flood of novelty. Novelty is one of dopamine's favorite stimuli. Even more potent is unpredictability. The brain responds strongly to variable rewards that arrive intermittently and unpredictably. This is the principle behind slot machines. Occasional wins keep players pulling the lever because they never know when the next payoff will come. Social media is engineered the same way. Most posts are ordinary, most notifications are mundane, but every so often something delightful or surprising appears. The next swipe could be the one that matters. That uncertainty keeps attention locked in. So where does the idea of a dopamine detox go wrong? The intuition behind it, that we're overwhelmed and need a reset, is valid. The interpretation that we must subtract dopamine is not. Dopamine isn't a toxin you can flush out. What gets dysregulated is sensitivity and timing. When your brain is continually bathed in high-frequency stimulation, the baseline for what feels rewarding shifts upward. Ordinary activities begin to feel dull because the comparison changes. Imagine eating chocolate cake for breakfast, ice cream for lunch, and candy for dinner. After a while, apples and oatmeal feel bland. The fruit didn't change, your expectations did. The same process applies to dopamine. Constant, intense stimulation elevates what counts as exciting. Reading becomes boring. Exercise feels uninteresting. Deep work seems intolerably slow. It's not laziness, it's reward imbalance. The solution, then, isn't deprivation for deprivation's sake. It's recalibration, restoring sensitivity by changing when and how rewards are delivered. Think of it like entering a dark room. At first you can't see anything, then your eyes adapt and you begin to notice shapes and colors you missed before. Reduce high-intensity stimulation for a while, and ordinary experiences regain their richness. Walks feel restorative, conversations feel fuller, music and books become absorbing again. Focus returns, not because dopamine disappeared, but because your brain's reward system resensitized. This brings us to dopamine timing, the real hack. Most of us let technology front-load our reward systems. We check our phones the moment we wake, scroll through feeds before we've done any meaningful work, and consume entertainment before producing anything of value. When you begin your day with a barrage of high-reward stimuli, work and effort must compete with that pre-established standard. The brain is already comparing. Why slog through a task when scrolling delivered a steady stream of small wins? Flip the sequence. Place effort before reward. Wake up and move first. Seek sunlight. Do focused, deep work before you check messages. Exercise, create, or tackle a meaningful task early. Then allow rewards afterward. A short break, a satisfying meal, a few minutes of social media as a treat. When rewards follow effort, dopamine reinforces productive behavior. The same molecule that once pulled you toward distraction now strengthens discipline because the timing rewards the behavior you want to repeat. This insight also reframes a major myth about motivation. Motivation doesn't always come before action. Often action creates motivation. You don't wait around feeling inspired to exercise. You start moving, and momentum, along with rising dopamine, makes the rest easier. You don't always feel motivated to write. You sit down and write, and progress fuels more motivation. Dopamine often rises during progress, not just in anticipation. So stop waiting for the perfect mood. Begin and let dopamine catch up. Uncertainty and progress matter too. The brain loves novelty and progress. Goals supply both. When people lose their goals, dopamine systems can flatten. Life feels dull and repetitive. Purpose. Setting a challenge, learning a skill, building something, creates pursuit. Pursuit creates engagement. Engagement activates dopamine in a healthy way. The happiest and most fulfilled people aren't necessarily those relaxing and passive pleasure. They're often builders, learners, and contributors. People who pursue meaningful challenges over time. Wearable technology is helping us see this more clearly. Devices that track sleep, activity, heart rate variability, and recovery reveal patterns in behavior and performance. And we're discovering that consistency and rhythm often beat intensity. The healthiest dopamine systems don't belong to the most stimulated people, but to the most intentional, those who structure stimulation strategically and align rewards with their goals. None of this is a moral judgment about technology. Companies optimize for engagement. Platforms are designed to capture attention because attention is now one of the world's most valuable commodities. Dopamine sits at the center of that attention economy. The question becomes, are you using dopamine to support your aims, or is dopamine being used against you? If you take one idea from this episode, let it be this. Dopamine is not your enemy. Pleasure is not your enemy. Technology is not inherently bad. The real variable to manage is timing. Are your rewards arranged to support your goals, or are they distracting you from them? The difference between addiction and achievement often comes down to the same neurochemical system, the same molecule, the same brain, arranged in a different pattern and rhythm. Practical changes are simple and powerful. Delay consumption until after creation. Reorder your morning to prioritize movement and focused work. Set predictable windows for high-stimulation activities. And remember that action can produce motivation. Change your environment, the cues, the sequence, the timing, and your brain will adapt with you. I'm Dr. Yende. Thank you for joining me for another episode of OXYZEN Health Intelligence. Remember, your brain is not broken. It is adapting to the environment you provide it. Change the environment, and the brain often changes with it. Check on oxyzen.ai for more information and lots of resources for your daily healthy living and health insights. I'll see you in the next episode.